Incoming. Welcome back from the bunker. I'm your host today, Slim Reaper or Burke, and I'm here with Cameron Fath. Cameron, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you do, and your time in the military?
Sure, I can answer all those questions. Burke, thank you so much for having me on, man. I'm super excited to be here. For those of you watching or listening, my name is Cameron Fath. I served in the Army for about 9 years, split between active duty and California National Guard time. So when I was active duty, I served at 2nd Ranger Battalion. It's part of the 75th Ranger Regiment, and I was an infantryman. And then with that organization, deployed once to combat in Syria, and then had a couple overseas training rotations to Europe and Asia. I transitioned out, went to the California National Guard, where I was a reconnaissance team leader and spent all my time in a recon section. So that was a super fun time. Had to do some activations in the 2020 like kind of riots that were happening. So that was uber fun. But essentially exited the military and got some education, went to Pepperdine University, and then found my way into the media space. Just kind of stumbled, really. There was really nothing intentional about it, just walking through doors and taking opportunities. Became a host of a couple popular YouTube channels, and then that ultimately led to me hosting a Netflix TV show called Toughest Forces on Earth. And that now as spring launched me into a very passionate and loving career in media and production. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now in a nutshell.
That's awesome, man. So you said you were a second bat in Syria. When was that?
So I was there in closer to the end of 2017. So our company, I was in Bravo Company 275, specifically 3 Bravo. Shout out to them. So I was a gun team leader on that trip. So we were at FBR, Firebase Raqqa, which wasn't as glorious as it was now, or that as it is now. It was kind of just a abandoned schoolhouse there, and we were just shitting in wet bags and didn't have any hot chow for like the first 2 months. It was a good trip, but yeah, I was there from, I think we spent 3 months there because we cut our trip short because ISIS was defeated, allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we I remember getting back around November or December.
That's funny because I was there in one, and I was at Conoco,
Okay.
on the east side by Euphrates. But yeah, I think I ended up in Raqqa one time, and they had that prison break there another time.
Yes.
Like that was a whole thing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a whole thing. It was a thing that led to a
my
Medal
buddy
of
was in the
Honor.
my buddy was in the Brads there, and he has a wild recollection of that story.
Dude, I'm sure I had some buddies because how it was, or at least how we were. It was one company that was in country at the time, and they split us up. So one was at the LCMR, which was like that. Or I'm sorry, the one was at the concrete factory, the LCF, and one of us, which was my platoon, was at Firebase Raqqa, which at the time was like a K outside of Raqqa, and then we had another platoon at Hasaka. And so, but we ended up going there. My platoon ended up going to Hasaka at the end to kind of like get out of country, but we stayed there for like 2 or 3 weeks as like a QRF. But yeah, that prison became one of our responsibilities. I know I have a buddy who ended up going to Syria, I think a year later, or on the next rotation, and they were like sending dudes over there to like do watch before the prison break. So I guess they didn't do that good of a job, huh? Yeah.
No, yeah. For people who don't know, I guess like so there's this prison in Raqqa. It holds a bunch of ISIS combatants, right? And um, so one day, like it was a huge planned thing. These ISIS combatants moved a bunch of weapons close to the prison, and then blew a hole in the prison, and basically like broke out all these ISIS guys. And the Syrian military, being the Syrian military at the time, or I guess it would have been the SDF at the time, um, like ran away. And so this Bradley element from it was like Iowa or Montana National Guard got sent to like quell this rebellion that had started in this prison, and they like ended up fighting like 400 ISIS fighters that had just picked up guns from around the base, and like during this whole thing they went black on ammo, on the Bradleys and dismounted all the troops, and everyone like ran out of ammo. It was a whole wild thing, but that's what we're talking about. And then it happened
Yeah.
again in like 2022. The same thing happened.
Yeah, they love to break out of that prison, man. Syria was just it was nothing like anything we've ever done, and I'll take that with a grain of salt because my only deployment was Syria. I never got to go to Afghanistan. I spent a little bit of time in Iraq, but I never count it because it was like Erbil and on the way back.
Yeah,
So which is basically the United States.
it's nice now.
So
Erbil's real nice.
oh, dude, oh, I don't understand how you'd ever want to leave that place. It is
No, yeah,
literally a
it's the
city.
Kuwait is like they have pools and there's
Yeah,
tourists, which is wild.
yeah, super wild. They got like malls and it's crazy. So that's why I don't really say like, oh, I deployed to Iraq because I really didn't. It just
I was
happened to be there.
I was with I think second bat in Camp Alpha in Afghanistan for like
Were
8
you?
months. I don't remember. It
What
was I think it
year?
was uh that was 1920, end of 19 going into 20. When they had that Battle of Bath V-bid that went off.
Oh,
So
you
if
were with my platoon then.
oh really?
Yeah, where the V bid hit.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, did you know any of those guys?
Not really. They so I
Okay.
was do you know Camp Alpha at all?
So I know of it. I know how it's set up within
Yeah.
Bath.
Okay.
Um,
So like yeah, it's the northwest side of Bath, and I was at like the south end. I was a contractor at the time. And I
okay.
was on the south end in our barracks, and the bat guys are like probably 200 meters north of that, and that V-bid went off like 75 meters south of me, in between like the hospital, Camp Alpha, and like on the wall there. So
Yeah.
we were the first ones there, and then Bat showed up. Some of them, there's no organization. Like half your platoon showed up to like come help shoot
Yeah, I
people.
know. I heard they were just like he's like my buddy who was there. He was telling me about it because it was literally my platoon. Three
Yeah,
Bravo was at BAF during this, and he's like, "Yeah, we got hit with a V bid, and like we just went and started shooting belt feds at fucking nothing."
yeah.
And yeah, and it's really funny. I had a buddy of mine in that platoon end up getting a Purple Heart because because apparently he was in the gym when the V bid hit and a fucking plate like fell off and hit him in the head when he was on a squat rack or something and it like cut him open and he got a Purple Heart for it. Yes.
I know
That's so
exactly what gym it is too. That's why it's funny. Like I know
yeah.
exactly where he
So
was.
yeah, so I got told that whether it's like 100% true or not, that's not for me to say, but I think that's hilarious. But
100% true
dude,
is he
small
doesn't
world,
pay
man.
taxes. He doesn't pay taxes
Here
anymore.
you go, dude. Take
So
it. Take that to the bank, man. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your service, man.
dude, that was such a wild time. I wish. Oh man, because the guy who turned us on to you on Instagram, we don't know who he is. He's super secretive about his identity, but he's still in uh,
Yeah,
Cross Rifle Gospel and then Ranger Doc. We did a couple collabs with them. We did some T-shirt sales with them.
awesome.
They're the ones who are like, hey man, reach out to Cameron Fath. Like you guys will get along, hit it off, and let us know how it goes. So I actually don't know who that is, but
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know who that faceless hero is either. Please reach out to me. I'd love to get your story, but I'm glad to know that, like, or at least it warms my heart that people recommend me or refer
yeah.
me because that means I must be doing something right, dude.
Well,
That is like a the only thing you have in soft, and I think this is in the entire military, is like the most important thing afterwards is your reputation. And it's just like, I mean,
yeah,
there are a couple people in the media right now, that don't have a good reputation
yeah.
and are going on podcasts and doing all this thing. And it doesn't really matter unless the guys you worked with like feel the same about you, or at least have positive things to say. So that makes me all giddy inside. Shout out
Oh,
Ranger Doc. Thanks, man.
the Ranger, yeah, Ranger Doc Cross Rifle Gospel. You got your own shout out,
Thank
but
you.
we were talking, and that's this thing about your guys' community, the Ranger community, that I wish was more true. And I know it's not exactly the same because you guys are such a smaller force than the regular infantry and the combat arms side of the military. Like, I'll have those small moments where I'll be at like a gate passing through Abu Dhabi, and I'll see a guy on the side of the road, at the gate, and I'll be like, shit, I went to basic training with that dude. But like you guys, it's like I say a name and everyone's like, yeah, I know that dude. Like And you're like, yeah,
It's small.
I went to like this school with that guy. Like, we were deployed this time. He was in my platoon.
Yeah, dude. It's funny because I've actually met more Rangers outside of regiment now that I've been doing like a lot of work trying to like give back to regiment or just like really support those dudes. Because they're like my heroes right now. Like I'm done, dude. You know that I can't do that job. I mean, I can. I can. Let's be honest. I can do the job. Done the job, but I don't want to. I'm in a different state of mind.
Yeah,
I've shifted focuses, and like those dudes are like my heroes now. So if there's any opportunity to support the dudes that are like still doing that job, I want to help them as much as possible and support them because I know how challenging it is and how demanding it is. So having somebody on the outside that like has your back, I know if I was in that position, that would feel really good. So that's what I've kind of been trying to create on the outside, doing a lot of work with companies like Legends of the 75th, Mike Burke. He is actually he was a Seco 275 first sergeant when I showed up. So obviously we didn't know each other back then because first sergeants don't like
yeah.
fist bump with privates at the time. It's not a norm. But we ended up reconnecting for a project that we're actually trying to create right now, which was a documentary about the 80th anniversary of the Cabanatuan raid. So we 22 former Rangers went over to the Philippines and we like retraced the steps of the 6th Ranger Battalion for the Cabanatuan rescue mission, which it was a bunch of movies about. Or there's a big Hollywood movie called The Great Raid, if you're familiar with it, and it is historically the greatest rescue mission that has ever been conducted in U.S. military history. So 22 former Rangers. I mean, we're talking dudes. We had 3 retired regimental 75th Command Sergeant Majors with us. We had the PL from the actual Mogadishu, 3 Bravo 375. Larry Moore's there. We had dudes that jumped into Panama. We had dudes that have like done every single historically Ranger relevant thing from like 1980 to current. So I've got to meet all those dudes and just talking to absolute legends, and then it kind of trickles down to like this guy knows this guy and he introduces you to this. So and then I had the pleasure of meeting a guy named Rick Merritt, who's like one of the most famous GWAT Rangers that I heard about. He notoriously used to run around 3rd Ranger Battalion barefoot for PT. So he's just an absolute savage, and I got to like sit down and interview him for another project I was working on for Vet TV. So I've gotten to meet like some absolute crazy Rangers, and I've been extremely grateful for that opportunity because they're all the same. Um, no matter how old they are, they're like,
Yeah.
dude, you're just a little bit grayer, a little bit rounder, and a little bit more wise. But we're all the same, man. It's that's probably the biggest theme I've seen.
I was trying to get through all your stuff, man, before you came on here, but you have so much going on that I picked, picked and chose. And so tell me a little about the toughest force on Earth series that you got going on Netflix.
Sure. No, it was an amazing time. So such a cool project to be a part of. I was actually poached for it, and thankfully, I didn't have any like sexual harassment charges against me. So that's kind of how I got picked. Really, it's a funny story.
Oh my
I
God.
got a I've been doing hosting for a YouTube channel called Shift Fire, which was like me and my good friend Israel Wright. He was a former Green Beret from First Group, and we used to do this YouTube channel for a couple years where we just like celebrate military culture by doing different segments that are all like military themed, anywhere from like doing different PT tests from different branches or LEO agencies to like eating MREs from different countries, just stuff that like people are curious about in the military. But anyways, I got a message on my Instagram from like some random account, and you always get suspicion when they have like low follower count and like following a lot, but like nobody follows them back.
Hmm.
So they like sent me this message saying like, "Hey, I'm looking for." Some guys for a Netflix show. This is my name. This is who we're associated with. And I absolutely thought it was like a Nigerian scammer.
I was about to
And
say, dude, that's the Nigerian prince, bro. They're real.
yeah, for real. I'm like, I'm gonna respond to this, and they're gonna ask me. They're gonna be like, "This is actually Kanye West. I'm stuck. Send me some money." So I ended up kind of like fact checking the organization he was saying in his message, and like, no shit, their legit website popped up. I looked at their like IMDb. Yeah, okay, they did work on these projects. Okay, so I kind of cautiously said, "Yeah, let's talk." Set up a meeting with the executive producer. She's like, "Yeah, we're looking at a couple people for this last role. It's for a presenter. We already have our two other hosts. We've narrowed it down to you and another guy. You got to meet with the hosts to see like who jives with the best to get like a good dynamic." And I met with the other hosts, Ryan, who's a former SEAL, and Dean, who's a former Special Boat Service (SBS). I didn't even know what the SBS was, to be honest. I didn't realize that there was another thing in the UK military for special forces, but they're the Navy version of the SAS. So kind of like SEALs. But don't let him tell you I said that because he'll be like, "Oh, fucking mate, we're better than
Yeah,
SEALs,
I'll
bro."
edit that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tier one, mate.
Yeah.
Uh, so interviewed with them. We all got along, and ultimately I ended up getting picked. And the rest is history, and history you can watch on Netflix. So I got to travel around to 8 different countries, one of them being the United States. And essentially, our role was to embed within a specialized unit in each country, see how they operate, kind of understand the culture within that unit, and then learn their mission set, and then do training alongside them. So it wasn't like I initially I thought it was going to be like we're going to go talk to them. They're going to like do a training mission, and we're going to say on the sides and kind of like narrate it and talk about our personal experiences. Not even close. They're like, "You're here. You are, man. You're fast rope now. You're leading. You're one man on this FMP." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah!"
Awesome.
Oh, it was so cool, man. So basically, like I've always been very passionate about the military ever since I was a young kid. I didn't have any aspirations to like pursue education. I was a C student in high school. All I wanted to do was enlist in the military. I was enlisted at 16 years in like the delayed entry program for the army. Initially, I joined the Marine Corps when it was like full depth in to get a force recon contract, but then my mom was like, "You should probably look at the budgets," because I was a huge gear nerd. Like I was really into airsoft, and I collected tactical gear and made loadouts and all that fun stuff. And she's like, "If you want gear, your military branch is going to need money." And she's like, "Look at the budget." And I
Found the
was like,
Marines.
"Yeah, I know." And she's like, "Marines spend all their money on marketing," which is so true. But yeah, I looked up the budgets, and like Marine Corps was like given the least amount of money,
Yeah,
and
eight
the
dollars.
Army was like number one. And I'm like, "All right, let's go talk to an Army recruiter." And then I walked in there, I was like, "I want to be an infantryman." And they're like, "Are you sure? There's like a bunch of these other jobs that you can like use after the military." And I'm like, "Nope, want to be an infantry dude." Anyways, back to the show. Got to embed along 8 different countries. One of those was Navy EOD. And then we went to Austria, did mountain warfare, and every country we went to was a different environment. So we did kind of maritime underwater with Navy EOD, learning about bombs and defusing bombs. And then also didn't know that like EOD are huge seaburn assets for like chemical, biological, radiological. Like they are experts in seaburn. I had no idea. But it makes sense after doing like a whole day in MOP level 4, working with like nuclear munitions. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. So then we went to Colombia and did jungle warfare with their Commando Junglas, which are like their DEA kind of special operations for law enforcement. And then after that, we went to Sweden, did Arctic survival, Arctic SEER with their SEER school, and we're kind of attached with a bunch of parachute rangers, which is like their tier 2 there in Sweden. And those dudes are tough as fucking nails. Like just talk about like just like tough humans. Yeah, like the cold did not bother them. We did like a -35 ice plunge in a frozen lake, And those dudes were like, now granted, I actually was super sick when I got off the plane. Like I contracted some virus on my way there and it just took me out. One day I woke up with pink eye in both my eyes and just like I had a fever. I had, I was like 102-degree
Just
fever. I was
dying.
just absolutely dying. And not to mention now I'm like absolutely dying in -35, like -40 Celsius. And it just was not a good time. So I did pretty much everything except for the final mission where they had to like pull me out because I made the decision because I was like, dude, there's no way I'm gonna like hold you guys back. So that was kind of like a hard thing for me to do because like this is gonna be for millions of people to watch, and I kind of just had to like drop my ego and be like, if I go out there and something happens, that's just gonna be stupid. So decided to stay back and yeah, let the guys have some fun, and it ended up being fine. But I spent like 6 days quarantined in a hotel. It was just this whole thing. And then after Sweden, went to Austria and did mountain warfare in the Austrian Alps with their Tier 1 Yag Commando. Those dudes are awesome. After that, did desert warfare with the Jordanian Special Forces. Got to meet the King of Jordan. That was kind of cool. Don't think he likes me very much, but that's okay. Then after that, we went to the Philippines, did like maritime and like VBSS with their Filipino SEALs. After that, did swamp warfare with the Malaysian GGK, which is like their Special Forces commandos. And then finally, we did urban warfare with the Mexican Special Forces. So a lot of,
Man, dude, what an experience. That is
dude,
like experiencing so many different special forces throughout the world, like every community in the world that you would ever want to be a part of.
yeah, no, it was pretty gnarly, and for me, being that military nerd that grew up like wanting to serve, like obviously Rangers have every special forces or special operations unit, even conventional size, has a very deliberate mission set, right? Like you don't really steer off, and some special forces they like to kind of dip their finger in everything. Rangers were like we do raids and airfield seizure. So if this school doesn't really align with us being able to just destroy the enemy, it's like not really normalized. We send guys to like Halo, right? Especially RRC. We send dudes to dive school if they want it, but that's like a specialized training, but it's not part of our pipeline. So I got to do all these things that I had like pretty much no business doing at regiment. I got to learn how to dive. So I got to dive and I was like hooking up bottom mines at 60 feet in the Florida Ocean and lifting them with balloons and towing them to shore. I got to do VBSS, pretty much vehicle board search and seizure. Um, and we with the Filipino Navy SEALs on like a ginormous cargo ship that was in the Manila Bay. I got to do jungle survival, and that was jungles are not cool.
No, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, no, it is like everything can hurt you or
Yeah.
kill you in the jungle. Like the deadfall can, like the trees can fall on you, the bugs can bite you and poison you, the plants can prick you and give you an infection. Like the jungle is just not cool. But I have a lot of respect for all those units that I worked with, just because um, the United States is, in my opinion, the most elite military in the world. And that might bother some people, but get over it. so,
Hey,
but
man, they can say whatever they want, but you got to
yeah,
prove it. So we
yeah.
can we
So
can always
I got
we
I
can
got a
always
lot
back it
of
up.
good exposure. I got a lot of good exposure to how things are run and worked. But the reason I have so much respect is we have all this gear and technology, but these guys do it without it, right? Like they're like some countries and not as wealthy nations are like doing special operation missions with the most bare bones like kits. So that was to me is like when we talk about tough, like utilizing equipment and soldier skills blended together is an ultimate, is like final form. You're like, my power level is like 5,000 right now. But to take away the gear and to still have that like really professional, really high performing operator, that's what I was like, yeah, I got a lot of respect for these guys. So the show was such a cool thing to do, and it had such a positive response. We were a Netflix top 10, global top 10 because it was available all over the world. I got, I just got a lot of opportunities afterwards to work more in the film industry, which I didn't even know that I'd like until I did the show. So I was just super grateful for that opportunity. But that show came out a year ago, and now my mindset is like, I am not gonna be the guy that was like, uh, you know, 15 years down the line and be like, remember that one Netflix show with one season? That was me. It's like in my mind, the show is dead, and it's what's next. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Good. Well, what is next?
That's a great question, man. So right now, I've been doing some exciting projects. I actually have two very cool projects. We'll say three. That's four fingers. Three. My bad, dude. Index finger likes to just have a mind of its own. But I'm working on a couple projects with Vet TV or Veterans TV. Great organization. Mainly, if you're not familiar, they are a military streaming platform. So they produce their own content and their own television series and stream it exclusively on their website. They started off as a really dark comedy, like the military dark comedy style skits, and you've probably heard of them if you're in the military. But they had a restructuring a year or two ago, and now they're starting to do other things, not just comedy. They are, they're doing more documentary style and unscripted stuff, which cue me. So I had the amazing opportunity to go down to Fort Benning during the 2025 Best Ranger competition, and we were pretty much given full access to it. So we brought a camera crew down from Vet TV, and we pretty much made a mini documentary about Best Ranger, and we followed the Ranger teams from the 75th, and we basically got to see got a good inside look of what really takes or what it takes to perform well and to prepare and just be part of this culture that is Rangering. So that was an amazing opportunity because I had the opportunity myself to do Best Ranger when I was in, and I gave it up. And I think it was, I have like three regrets in the military, and not doing Best Ranger was one of them. So getting to actually see how it works, and I got FOMO hard, and I'm like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have given up that slot to deploy, and then not get to deploy. And now I'm like, now I'm not at Best Ranger or deployment.
You
So
can't hold that against yourself though. Like
yeah,
I
I know,
volunteered for
dude.
like every fucking deployment, dude.
Yeah, dude, I got that. I think, that was probably one of my biggest regrets, or at least like, a lot of dudes in the military, you don't get to pick, when the fight happens. So I feel like a lot of guys join, and like I dealt with this for so long, because I only had one deployment, one real combat deployment. I saw quote unquote combat, like I've seen what it is, but if you ask me like, oh, did you like, in the infantry, shoot him in the face, kick in the door. You've seen the commercials. Did I do that? Absolutely not. I sat on an MFP as a non-mortar guy, and I hung 120s and just blew up things that I had no idea where they were, or who they hit.
I mean, it's
So
still
I'm just like,
badass. I
yeah, no, it was. I
mean,
mean, look, great opportunity. Went to a lot of counseling, went to a lot of therapy to get over that and just accept what I did and actually be really proud of it. But a lot of guys still struggle with that, especially like the Rangers I've talked to now, because like there's nothing really going on. They're doing a little bit of moving around, all secret squirrel type stuff, but the days of like the 2010 GWAT are not around, and they haven't been around for a while. So being part of an organization that has deployed every single year since the beginning of the global war on terrorism. There's like, there has always been Rangers in Afghanistan and Iraq since the beginning of the GWAT. There has never been a point where there just weren't any. So, being part of that and then only getting to deploy once in 4 years, you're like, what the hell? so, so it took a lot of time to kind of get over that. But now, man, I'm so happy with what I did and the experiences that I got to have. Even though I didn't get to shoot people in the face and split wigs, I got to do a lot of medical experience. We had a CCP, or a casualty collection point, at FBR, and it was in the beginning, like we had a SOS team with us, which is the special operations surgical team, which is like the Air Force Tier 1 surgical team, and their CCP was established right where we were. So we'd get anywhere from 3, 5, 7 actual real life casualties a day, and they just Our job was to provide security for that building, but they'd be like, "Hey, do you got hands? Come over here and help." And all of a sudden now I'm like packing a dude's wound, or I'm fucking holding a guy down where they saw his leg off, or doing heart massages where they're just like, "Yeah, you can do this." And yeah, so I got to do like so many hours of that, so for which I'm extremely thankful because not a lot of people have that experience. So
And
that kind of,
it's a skill you can use forever. Literally,
yeah.
like it's the experience and skill you can use for the rest of your life. Like I had a gunshot victim outside my house like months ago, and I would like,
Wow.
had I not known what a chest seal is and had an IFAC nearby, like that dude would be dead. And like
Yeah.
those skills are like gold in today's world because there's so much violence and uncertainty all over the place. So like to have somebody with knowledgeable medical skills, even if you're just that grunt that's like, hey, what do I do with my hands? And they tell you, and you're like, okay, well now I know.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
you can do something, you know? No, 100%. And it's like, for me, I've found a lot of value in, and I guess this is another thing I'm doing outside of media, but like pretty much when I'm not in front of a camera or working with a crew, I'm training people. I'm part of a organization called Defense Strategies Group. It's Los Angeles based, but I'm here in Sacramento now, so I fly down to help train. But I've come across a lot of, I don't want to call it like skills, but they are skills that I truly believe that, like, just like you said, people need. And shooting is just one thing. It's just one piece of the pie. And it's not an end all be all. If you're like an amazing shooter but you're out of shape, you're failing. If you're like an amazing shooter but you don't know how to apply a tourniquet or put a chest seal on or pack gauze, you're failing. Like, if you can make bullet holes, you should more than be able to plug them as well. It's like, they're soldier skills. If being a soldier just meant shooting, um, you know, they wouldn't be
Everyone,
we wouldn't
everyone
be
would do it.
effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the saying? Fire without maneuver is a waste of ammo. Maneuver without fire is suicide.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to know how to do
exactly.
both. Yeah.
Exactly. It's shoot, move, communicate. Can you do all those things effectively and at speed?
Yeah.
That's the recipe, man. So when I, like, my biggest thing is just like making sure people know, the level of responsibility that, like, having these skills, because now you're able to share those, and you will become a force multiplier with these skills, right? Because now you can just trickle down. It's the same thing why we send dudes to schools in the military, or when we send dudes to schools, they come back with a skill set that now they can pass to the rest of the organization, and make it more efficient and make it more lethal, or at least better at their jobs. So I've taken that piece of the military mindset, and have really tried to emphasize it in the civilian world. And it's been working out, man. I get a lot of fulfillment from that job. I get a lot of fulfillment personally from creating on the production side, and I get a lot of fulfillment, passing along just these lessons I've seen and learned, and to people, and see how it impacts their lives. I had a story time. I know I've been talking a lot, but I had
It's a
one of my
podcast.
privates. Yeah, I mean, it's a podcast. So I had one of my privates in the National Guard. He was at the time a law enforcement, and now he's at a really cool, super secret, sexy agent, or agency, which I'm really proud of him. But he, like, I was teaching him RFR, which is Ranger First Responder, and I was teaching him, like, how to do blood sweeps, how to, like, basically go through your march sequence. And March sequence is like, so basically, like, you got like massive hemorrhaging, airway. It's basically the order of how you go down, kind of like your medical process, or how you think things through when you're treating. So M stands for massive hemorrhaging. So, like, okay, tourniquets, make sure the bleeding stopped. Then you go to A, is airway, like any type of obstructions in the airway suffocating this guy. And then you go to respirations, right? MAR, are they breathing? Because they can be breathing but have obstructions. So clearing, it's like the head tilt, chin lift, looking, making sure, taking their dip out, making sure their tongue's not being, if they're passed out, making sure they're able to breathe with like an MPA or an OPA. And then C is like circulation. So if you need to pump IV or fluid, maybe put a saline lock in them. And then H, you have like hypothermia. It's kind of three. One of them's really hard to say, and I just never try. But like head trauma, hypothermia, putting a blanket on them, making sure they're warm. Because when you're losing when you're losing blood, the body's rapidly cooling. You need to keep it, and that's how shock sets in, and that's what kills them. And then E is like evacuation. So like get them on a litter out. So I'm like teaching him this stuff, And a few, like 1 or 2 months goes by, and like I said, he's a law enforcement officer at the time, and he sends me this text message, and he's like, "Hey, like I responded to a call last night. And it was a gunshot wound, and he got shot with a 22, and they plugged a bunch of holes. But I started doing blood sweeps on him, or like blood rakes, where you pretty much go down each appendage, arm or leg, and you like rake with your fingers, and you'll see like either your finger will like fall into the bullet wound, or you're like squeezing and raking, and you'll see it just milk blood. So he's like, I started doing, blood rakes and blood sweeps like you taught me. And all of a sudden I found a bullet hole that was in the guy's armpit. And like, it had not been treated. It hadn't been plugged. And he's like, and we started doing interventions and like plugging it up. And we ended up saving the guy. And like, the paramedic was like, if we didn't find that, that guy probably would have died. So he's like, so thank you for teaching me that. And I'm like, dude, you know, your virtual high five. That's better than what I can imagine any firefight would feel like. That's better than like, any military award. Just helping people, making people better, making people more prepared, making them an asset on a team is like, that's all I can ask for, man.
Yeah, totally agree. Kind of like the difference between the army, like when we kind of grew up. I'm assuming you joined probably what 2010-ish.
I joined in 2014.
Oh shit. Oh, so you
Yeah, no,
just
so
got
I
out.
got out officially in 2023, so recently.
Oh wow, you just got wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, around the time that we got it, because I got it in 2012. We kind of had that thing like Syria was like kind of a foreshadow. Like, I was going through basic, and everyone's like series next, series next, series next. Being in the infantry basic training, everyone's like, we're going to fucking Syria as soon as we get out of here, like, uh, and like all the OSID drill sergeants are like, yeah, you guys are all gonna die. So like, that was kind of like the mindset when I went through,
yeah,
and like that was the military mindset. Like everyone wanted to fight, everyone wanted to like deploy, everyone wanted to be a part of GWAT. And the biggest fear was that it was going to be over before you got to,
yeah,
and like kind of looking to today, like there that doesn't exist anymore. Like nobody thinks that way anymore. Nobody wants to train. Nobody wants to learn. Nobody wants to look forward. Nobody wants to deploy. No one wants to fight. And I was just wondering if you had any insight or ideas about why that might be. Is it cultural? Is it political? Is it just the change in the world and the way that we are today? But it's kind of
yeah,
sad to see that we don't have that drive anymore to go out into the world and make that difference that we wanted. Like not just to do violence, but to make a difference in the lives of the people that we can.
yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's a great question, and it's a very philosophical question.
Yeah,
Um, but I think it has a lot to do with culture. The GWAT, like we were hit home, like we were hit at home, and that really sparked it. Regardless of like, my dad is German, and he'd always say like when I was enlisting, he'd be like, "Why do you want to die for politicians?" La 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 la. I'm like, "All right, whatever, dad." But I think it is cultural. I even though I was what in like kindergarten or first grade, uh, not when 9/11 happened, like that was part of my reasoning for joining. Like we were still in a place that had come and hit us at home, like had come to your, like imagine somebody comes to your home and just fucking, lights your house on fire. I guarantee if you came across them in 20 years, you would still want to beat them up. So like we had that we still had that motivator, like we were still in a place that had attacked us. So that level of patriotism, I think was jet fuel essentially, and it lasted a long time. uh Now
it
that
melted
I
the steel
think,
beams. Still melts steel beams. Yep.
dude, for real, man, yeah, for real. And yeah, now that like it's kind of over, um because yeah, the GWAT is like trickling. They were still doing I had one of my good buddies was like in Syria last year, and there's these small military presences, but as far as like grand scale occupation operations, it's not there.
I mean, we just
So
pulled out of like Conoco's gone.
yeah,
Raqqa's closing. The prison is no
yeah,
longer U.S. military, run. And GWAT officially ended like halfway through my deployment in 2022 or 2023, something like that. So like, the ribbons are gone. Privates don't get those ribbons, the gimme ribbons
Oh, dude,
anymore.
you're
Like
just
all
a
that's
two
gone.
ribbon. Yeah,
Yeah,
just two ribbons out of basic, not three. Poor
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Uh,
Or one. I think it might be like one now
oh,
because it's
dude,
not
that's
war.
brutal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Army service ribbon. That's it.
Yeah,
You just have a rainbow ribbon.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
Thanks for joining
Uh,
up.
yeah, here you go, dude. Here you go. Here's your pride ribbon.
But I think you made a good point. Like, yeah, so I was in first grade, and I just remember there was one TV in the school and everyone was watching that one TV and we weren't allowed to leave or go anywhere. But yeah, no, I carried that. I don't want to say hate because that's a strong word, but I really, really didn't
Sure.
like them.
Yeah, awareness.
And, I remembered, that feeling of like, man, we're at war. And like as a kid, I was like, we're at war. This is World War II, right? Like this is Saving Private Ryan. I watched that when I was a kid. Band of Brothers. I was like, must be Band of Brothers time. And I kept that like until I was 17. I tried to join up when I was 17, and ended up joining when I was 18. And I didn't deploy till 2015 to Iraq, and I was like, not the same guys, not the same thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I think you're right. Like maybe they don't remember. Some of my privates, man, on my last deployment, weren't alive when the war started, which I thought
yeah,
was really sobering. Like even in Afghanistan, when I was there in 2019, 2020, some of the guys there, some of the young Rangers there, weren't alive when 9/11 happened, and I think
yeah.
that is
They were
that is
born in like
nuts.
2003,
Yeah,
2004. You know.
yeah, and yeah, I think you 100% hit it on the head. Like people forget,
Yeah, people
unfortunately.
do forget, and not to mention, like now we're not in that mindset anymore. Like we're looking at future wars ahead. You know, you have the C word, and you have the R word that are like the new just kind of axis of evil in the eyes of the United States, and they're not farmers and flip flops. You no, they are highly funded, highly technological advance. We were basically fighting ourselves, like in different skin tones and accents. So that I think is more. I people glorified the global war on terrorism. This is how I saw it because you read these amazing books, you see these amazing movies where like what movie have you seen besides like Saving Private Ryan where that beach scene, who sees the beach scene in the opening of Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan, and goes like, "I want to do that,"
Yeah,
But you watch Black Hawk Down, where they're just absolutely decimating these, these pirates essentially,
yeah,
and winning. So it's like the glorification factor is gone. Like you need to be a sociopath to
yeah,
want to be like raise my hand, and that's what I want to do. You see guys like Ukraine right now, one of the most televised conflicts we've ever seen. With with cell phone, we're in the era of cell phones where we have GoPros, we have drone footage that just can be uploaded on Reddit and for everybody to see. People watch that and they're like, I don't want to do that. Are you kidding me? Oh, what do you mean I can actually die? You know, I think that's a deterrent that like makes people don't want to deploy. Or especially in like I'm always confident based off the people around me, right? So like that's why I loved being in Ranger Regiment, because I was just surrounded by absolute alphas 24/7. Like I was never. Someone was always beating me at something, and if I took a win, it was quickly taken away from me, right, by somebody who's right on my ass. So when I went to the National Guard, I really liked my National Guard time, but I felt like I was in more of a training role than like an operational role. Because these guys, and bless their heart, this isn't their job. You know, it's been the M days, and I would love to hear your input on this. And this is just based off my observation, but like for example, when we were activated for LA, like I was terrified because our ROE was like non-existent. It was like, okay, they gave us these blue cards, and it was just like we had live ammo. We had M855
I'm
A1, which is
surprised you had live ammo.
oh yeah, oh dude, everyone did, and
That's
like
extremely surprising.
exactly. And your reaction to that is, I think, is just validates my point.
That's Well, you saw the DC thing; those did not have live ammo.
Yeah.
But
Oh no, we
empty
had
M4s, I was like, that's a wild thing to give somebody, an empty gun.
yeah, like we had live ammo, and I told all my guys in the section, and luckily, like being in the recon section, we had our own selection process to get there. Granted, it wasn't like you go somewhere like Ranger School or RASP where it's like 8 weeks. It was like one muta, a weekend muta in the field. You like do a 12 mile and a PT test, and then we do a board, and then we pick you up the next time.
Yeah,
But
shoot
it
twice a
still,
year. Yeah.
yeah, but it still requires a level of motivation, right? And I'm sure you've seen the average level of motivation in the guard for like young joes or junior ncos. It's not quite where I think it should be, because you take time training, and then everybody will go back to their regular lives, and then they'll come back and retain nothing. So it's just this cyclical level of basic skills training. Yeah, in LA, I'm like, these I do not want to give, Toby over there, Toby over there, who is a sprint, works for Sprint, and he's a soldier for his second job, M855A1, that can like really screw people up. And so I just had everybody in my section, like, I was like, chow sling your fucking weapon. Here's a couple water bottles, dude. Double fist them. And when protesters come up in your face, just give them a water bottle and say, I know you're thirsty from fucking running your mouth all day. Have a great one. So, like, being around people, and this is not, I'm not trying to bring down the National Guard. I met some amazing people in the National Guard, and like I said, I really loved my time. But I felt more confident to deploy to an absolute shit show of a place, being in regiment, than I was in the National Guard. So I ended up getting medically chaptered, from the National Guard. So I have a medical discharge in 2023. And this was around the time of my show coming out. And it was impossible to do something that would allow me to provide for my family, still being in the National Guard. And I was 100% at the time. So I kind of found that avenue out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I will say I think it differs from state to state. I wouldn't even say that. I would say it differs from company to company and platoon to platoon, which is extremely different from like the active side. And so my very first deployment, I deployed under National Guard Battalion. I was attached to the 101st Airborne under Blackhearts,
Nice.
under Second Brigade. That was I did that National Guard unit. I would say I liked most of the people, but the leadership was extremely incompetent and did not care about training. And they were not prepared because the deployment was meant to be a training deployment to Dubai. We ended up in Iraq during the invasion of Mosul, and end up, yeah, kind of like you were saying, like we were extremely unprepared. But I came from an infantry battalion and deployed under an artillery battalion. So luckily we had enough infantry guys that deployed with us that we were able to like kind of pull together. And the only guys
Nice.
who actually ended up in like the flot were the infantry guys and like some hardcore artillery dudes that we were with. And then my last National Guard deployment, I went to Syria, and I will say that that company and the NCOs and officers leading that company were the best soldiers that I've ever met in my life.
That's
When it comes to
fantastic.
when it comes to experience, we didn't have a single. Well, actually, we had one. We had one single squad leader that had not been in combat before. The rest of the squad leaders in the company had been deployed 2, 3 times.
Wow,
The
that's great.
company commander was ex Fath. He was second
Perfect.
brigade or second bat. Our first sergeant, 3 times deployed. The platoon sergeants 2, 3 times deployed. All infantry dudes, all trained to above standard before we left. And then we did
Amazing.
JRTC. We got our shit kicked in by Geronimo. And then we went to Fort Bliss, Texas, and we got our shit kicked in by the OCs there. So like when the guys got to country, we had no, with the exception of maybe one or two lower enlisted who had been in combat before, but they acted like they had. They were extremely professional. They were extremely well trained. Exception of one or two, we had no issues.
That's
No,
great, man.
nobody accidentally shot anybody like that didn't deserve it. And like kids were running around with toy guns that ISIS gave them, and we didn't have a single soldier open up on a kid with a gun. So
Perfect.
I was extremely proud of my. I would say on the other hand, kind of been in those positions where I did not trust the people around me, and it was hell. Like, and we were in combat, and I was like, we're gonna die here. We're gonna get
Yeah,
overrun by
man.
ISIS.
Yeah.
But
Um,
it, like I said before, it differs from unit to unit, and it
absolutely.
100% falls on like the senior NCO and those junior officers to make sure that doesn't happen. And unfortunately, the National Guard is a breeding ground for shitty NCOs and shitty officers because they
Yeah,
don't have to do anything. They realize that they
absolutely.
can forget it. They don't need to train when it's not, their time. But if you're an officer and you're a senior NCO in the National Guard, and I don't care if you're a motor T dude or a field artillery guy or an infantry platoon leader, you need to be running, you need to be working out every day, you need to be training with your guns, you need to be talking to your guys every week, you need to be planning your con ops, talking about like how you're going to assault a trench. If your squad as an infantry squad right now is not training how to assault a trench in 2027, you're
You're
fucking
fucked
wrong.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're wrong, man. Like, because right now the Ukrainians are doing it for real life and figuring it out as they go.
yeah,
But no,
no,
I
for
I,
sure.
I agree. But it is on that platoon, that company, to make sure that shit does not happen. And
Yeah,
like you see me getting fired up because I fucking hate like shitty National Guard units because I've been in a fantastic one and I've been in a
yeah,
shitty one, and it's a
no,
fucking
absolutely.
nightmare.
No, 100%, man. Like you only can control what you can control, and
Yeah,
like the senior leadership thing, or at least like how you progress in the National Guard was one thing that like blew my mind
yeah.
when it was just like if you just exist, you get promoted.
You can make it to
Um,
7 without doing
you can
fucking
make it a
anything.
7 without lifting a fucking finger
Yeah.
or like doing anything worth value. And I found that to be like absolutely shocking. And
Hmm.
like, I encountered NCOs that I found to be extremely incompetent and that just really held back the progression of the unit readiness.
It fucks
So
goes, man.
yeah,
I'm not gonna say his fucking name, but he's a 7. Should not be a fucking 7. He's not in my company. Should not be a fucking 7. He would have got people killed in Syria had he been in the position he was supposed to be in.
yeah,
Thank God the company knew, and they were like, let's transfer him somewhere where we can't do any fucking harm, and they did. And he like sat and did nothing, and thank God it ended up like that. But the soldiers that were under him for the train up for like 3 years, fuck, those dudes are useless. We strongly considered figuring ways to get them out of the military. Thankfully, we were able to like transfer most of them out to other jobs, but like could not operate in a combat arms environment anymore because this
insane,
this NCO fucking ruined them.
insane.
Yeah.
And it's nuts that it was able to go on that long.
Well,
And
you know the saying "fuck up, move up." Like it's easier
yeah,
to
dude.
promote him than it is to get rid of him. Like in the guard, like you gotta like do some shit to get kicked out, bro. Like you could smoke weed 30 times as long as it's 30 days apart and not get kicked out,
Dude,
right?
yeah, you can do drugs. You can,
Yeah.
dude, you can go AWOL and you'd
Oh
be
yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
dude. No,
Haven't seen this dude in 6 months, but he came back today. So
yeah, whatever.
fuck
Happy to
it.
have you. All
Yeah.
right, yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I guess, but like, I still really enjoyed my time in the National Guard. I think it's an excellent organization, because you have great job security. You have pretty good benefits. If you're an active duty guy and like you've completed your initial contract and like you've greenlit all your, pretty much greenlit like your GI Bill qualifications and all that, transferring over to the National Guard is, to me, if you want to retain like that military relationship, and that's why I did it. I did a try one initially, and then
Oh yeah.
yeah, because I was just like, oh, I hope the war starts again so I could
Yeah.
join
Just
active
leave it
duty.
open a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like instead of going through the entire process of like
Yeah.
rejoining the military, if I wanted to, because I've met a lot of Rangers that like got out and just you can't integrate again, and that's like another challenge, which you've probably, if you're listening to this, have heard talked about countless times about like how challenging it is to integrate into civilian life, maintaining some connection to the military and the National Guard. I think makes transitioning easier because you're still like you know what is it? You're like weaning off the military instead of just completely
Yeah.
getting cut off. So like when you start to go crazy because you're like nobody fucking understands me, you go to a muta
Yeah.
or you
What the
do
fuck am I gonna wear today?
exactly, and then boom, you're back in the military, and it like it's like a methadone clinic for like an addict.
Yeah. It's funny you say
So
that because I was just thinking, like, as you're saying, I was like, company right now is like ex bat try ones, ex active duty dudes, like mostly ex Marines. Like they did like 6 years in the Marine Corps, didn't deploy anywhere. They come to our unit for a deployment or something, which is absolutely wild. And like,
yeah,
so our unit deploys every 3 years like clockwork. So like,
nice man.
yeah, if you're looking to deploy, Come on.
Yeah, no, that's super
um,
cool, man. That's great to hear.
but yeah, like you said, like getting out. Granted, I took a year off and I used that year to go to Afghanistan for another company. But yeah, not being in the military for that year was wild, and I obviously did not stay that route because I missed
Yeah,
it. So here I am.
it is. I miss it still every single day. But I think like the most important thing, especially for like once you take off your PC and put on your fucking GWAP veteran hat,
Hmm.
you you start over, and people don't want to. And like,
Yeah,
especially if you've had really
yeah,
good progression, like,
and it doesn't.
or
It's hard because it doesn't count for anything, especially like people like us. Like it means a lot to us because like we're in the infantry. We did a lot of like crazy shit that you never do anywhere else in the world. But you know the mailman and the neighbors don't give a fuck that you like did 150 combat missions outside you know what I mean, like they just don't give a
yeah,
shit, and it's you can't
dude,
put it on
yeah,
the
they'd be
resume.
like, "Oh, you're a ranger? What national park?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
dude, it literally means nothing to anybody, and until you can accept that and just like be happy with it, you're gonna have a lot of transition problems. But I mean, there's a lot of support systems in place. Like for example, I my life has not since getting out of the military, my life has not been Netflix and fucking cameras and all that. Like, it's really easy to think that I've been really successful, and I'm thankful to say like I've done some really cool things since getting out of the military. But I've also had a lot of fucking hardship based off how I acted. Sorry, how I acted in the military. Like, it didn't set me up for success because I was ingrained in infantry culture, which should be caged. you
Yeah.
know, you're basically you act like a prisoner.
Yeah, and
You
you like go out into public with your guys and you're like, I have to watch that so
yeah, no,
close
you
all
need
the
to
time.
watch these people because they will get arrested because
Yeah,
they are literally convicts in
they'll go
mindset.
missing, they'll assault people, like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
100%.
leave them around.
No, you can't. So I came out with that mindset, like literally, here we go. I ETS'd on a Friday, right? Meaning I got out of the military on a Friday. I got actually promoted to E5 on terminal leave because I worked.
That's funny.
Dude, I worked. When people are like, okay, I'm ETSing, they'll just stop doing anything and they won't return phone calls. I literally worked up until Wednesday and I got out on Friday. Like, I ran an FMP with my company and my platoon on a Wednesday and then packed up my U-Haul on a Thursday, left Friday, got home Friday night to Los Angeles from Washington since I was at Fort Lewis. Friday night, I went out and got a DUI. So I literally always make this joke. I RFS'd myself from Ranger Regiment, right? And so basically, because like DUIs have killed more Rangers than bullets.
Hmm.
Like that's the easiest way to get kicked out of Ranger Regiment is get a DUI. So like I pretty much went almost 4 years of regiment, did a really good time. I got my Ranger tab. I was a fire team leader, and it's really hard to like rank up in regiment because it's so competitive. So I would consider myself like successful for what I was given and the level of responsibility I have. But then to get out and then get a DUI, and it's like, dude, boom, that fucking sucked. And it's just because I literally changed no behavior.
Yeah.
In Washington, the government and a lot of police officers understand this, especially in military installations around the United States, where like they have big special forces presences, where like I've heard stories of dudes getting picked up driving drunker than a couple of coal miners, and police pick them up and drop them off at the compound because they're like these guys are elite and this is how we return the favor, which might not be the right answer. Okay. you know, don't drive drunk.
Yeah,
um
don't do it, but if you do, like,
yeah, but if you do, hopefully you come across one of these cops, but don't drive drunk. It is a nightmare, but like that's the culture. Like we work really fucking hard and then we play really fucking hard and then we come back on Monday and do it again.
yeah, hungover.
So yeah, so that's kind of I kept doing that, and it bit me in the fucking ass because when I got pulled over, he didn't give a fuck I was in the military. He's just like, "You are blowing a .24, buddy." And I was like,
It's impressive.
"Bro, yeah, super impressive." And I was stone cold. We were good, but that's that behavior unacceptable now. And it like, and then I got that DUI. 8 months later, I was working executive protection because what else do you do when you get out of the infantry? You either work armed security or you become a police officer. So I was working armed security, and I left my pistol in my car and then went to AT like the day I did an overnight armed security shift, and the next day went to annual training for 2 weeks. So I didn't properly put my pistol in the trunk with the lock the California way, right? Because I had my CCW in Washington, so I'm just like, you know what, it's fine. So I came back and totally forgot I had my handgun in my car. Super irresponsible, and I ended up getting pulled over about a week later, because I had no front license plate. Um, and I was going through in California, they have something called Veterans Court, where essentially if you go through like you're on probation and you go through like a year and a half program, and then they seal and drop your DUI if you like go to AA classes and do all these things. So I was in that program, and being in that program puts you on probation, and you have search and seizure terms. So if you ever have any type of interaction with the cops, they can search you. They don't need a warrant. It's part of your probation. So here I am getting pulled over for no front license plate because I bought my car in Georgia where it's not legal to, it's not illegal to not have one. And yeah, I ended up, he comes over to my window and he's like, "Hey, you're on probation. I'm going to search your car." And I didn't realize I had my gun until I took my feet off my clutch and I kicked something underneath my chair. And I'm like, "What the
Damn.
fuck is that?" And I like reach down and feel my pistol grip. And I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Hopefully it doesn't search my car." Boom, walks up. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to search your car. You got anything in here?" And I go,
Oh,
"Fuck. Yeah." I was like, "I got my gun right underneath me, man. And I'm not even gonna lie to you because you're gonna find it. It's like not hidden." you know. And yeah, he pulls me out of the car. I have a big Ranger sticker on the back, literally this DUI that's shining behind me. And his partner rolls up, asks me what it is. I was like, "Oh, it's the unit I was part of in the military." And he's like, "Huh, okay." And the guy comes back over and he's like, "All right, hands behind your back. You're being under arrest for carrying concealed, And I told him I was in the military, and he didn't give a fuck, you
yeah.
know. And then boom,
Yeah,
I got
doesn't
a
care at all.
yeah, and then I had not only now I have a DUI, but 8 months later I have a firearms charge for carrying concealed, and now I'm going to court again, and like now I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars trying to fight two legal battles and keep them separate because if now it could potentially ruin my entire life. Now that I have a DUI that sticks and a gun charge, so like I was at a low, man. I was at a super low, and it wasn't until I met my fiance when she kind of like grabbed me by the scuff of my neck and was like, "You need help. You need to change." And she's been super supportive, and I owe like 99% of it to her, because the 1% I got to give myself for doing the work, But but yeah, no, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, and it's like just because I didn't because I wasn't deliberately acclimating, I was just accepting that my behavior was okay because I did it in the military, and I found that is what made me miss the military more, especially when I'd be around my military buddies and we'd like regress to it and just get super wasted. But now, like, it takes a lot of fucking work. It takes you being okay with being a beginner again, especially like coming from a unit like Ranger Regiment, uh, and then being nothing essentially. I had a buddy who was an amazing ranger. I went to ranger school with him, and he got out around the same time I did, and I went to go visit him in Texas. And I literally see, we're hanging out at his house, and then he like goes into his room, and I like kind of like be like he's gone for a little bit. I'm like, "What are you doing, dude?" And he's like crying in his room, full grown man, ranger fire team leader, and he works for Amazon as a delivery man. After being what is considered one of the most elite military guy, like elite infantrymen in the world, and like that to somebody who's been told they are the best every single day and has stride and has literally deliberately outperformed the standard every single day to get out and like have to come to that uh
It's
that hurts.
crushing. It's so
But yeah,
crushing.
and that
Yeah,
just makes you want to go back even more because you're good at it. And the fact that like it might be a negative characteristic that you are afraid to fail or afraid to be a beginner again. I had to switch my mindset because why the hell would I want to do anything that I'm bad at, especially when I'm good at so much? It's like staying inside your comfort zone, which is ironic because all that selection and pain and torment you put through your body trying to get to these units is like super rewarding. But at the end of the day, it's just something you did. It's just like It's like an old book. If you only read one book, how would you know that you like another one? So and that's like the guys that are like, still wearing the shit. Like I'm very proud of my military time and Ranger Regiment and National Guard, but it is not who I am anymore.
Yeah.
So I, but that took a lot of a lot of therapy, a lot of counseling, a lot of support from my fiance, and talking to people and communicating to help me on that. So if you're listening and you can kind of understand what I'm talking about, there is hope for you, my friend. You don't have to wear your Korea defense ribbon hat anymore. 10 years later.
Dude, I want to make one of those hats just because I think they're cool and funny. Because growing up, World War II guys always had like the
Oh
big
yeah, dude.
blue, USS whatever the fuck, and they had like
Yeah, the Navy
85
hat.
fucking pins on it. And I want to
Yeah,
make one. Like I sent the design to our guy, and so we haven't had it, but I want to make one for like GWAT and like have like, some. It's gonna look like the old school ones, and I'll put 50
yeah,
fucking pins on there and just wear it
dude,
to like
that's awesome.
wear it to Applebee's on like a Sunday night. you
Dude,
know?
100%, and just get super drunk
Yeah.
off Long Island iced teas
Yeah.
and
What?
call somebody a slur.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be sick.
Yeah, just like my forefathers.
Yeah, just like those who came before me.
But we're coming up on the end here, but I did want to touch on it a little bit because I'm a big nerd. So you and Israel were on Gameology like
Yeah.
a bunch of times. I'm a big fan. And you guys talk about like video games and stuff like that. Can you like run me through that a little bit for people who don't know? Because we're
Of course,
actually
man.
trying to build a gaming team to like
Oh,
kind of
very cool.
touch with like younger veterans, and that fucking Call of Duty's huge. Battlefield 6 is coming out
Yeah.
soon, so
Yeah, no, I that was my humble beginnings, and I'm so happy you brought that up because Gameology was like a really cool part of my life, and I didn't actually expect it to happen at all. I was how I got into it was I was working executive protection and like doing that thing, and it was super unfulfilling and whatnot. And I had a fire team leader that named Billy, and he's like awesome dude. My first fire team leader, like the first dude that pushed my shit in, was like this guy. So really, really big warm place in my heart for him. And he sent me this text message, and it was like a casting call for a movie. The movie ended up being Tenet by Christopher Nolan. It came out in
oh
like
no shit,
2020.
yeah.
Yeah, so I got to work on this movie. I applied and went through it. They were looking for veterans to like do special ability stuff. So I got to like film 3 weeks in Palm Springs in the desert, and it was just such a cool experience. It was that last battle scene when they're like all the dudes are in the desert. So I got to be one of those like green guys on the blue team with Robert Pattinson and like run alongside him. So that
Great
like
movie, by
introduced,
the way.
dude.
Fantastic movie.
You want to know something really funny? I've never seen it.
Get the fuck out of here, bro.
I've never seen it.
I had to watch it like 6 fucking times to like really
Kind of
set it in.
understand it.
Yeah, and finally got it like maybe the seventh time, but like
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like that movie because I've never seen it because I've heard that like people watch it and they're like, "Great movie," had no idea what it was about, but cool.
it
And
well it God, yeah, if you like pick up a piece of popcorn and look at it for a second, you're fucked. Like if you take your attention away for a second, you will have no idea what's going on in the movie, and you will have to watch it more than once. But definitely,
I can't do that. I got
definitely, come
raging
on, just
ADHD.
just try it.
I'll do
Just
it. I'll
watch
do it for you.
watch the
I'll
movie
watch it
you're
for you and
in,
try to
dude.
come back. Yeah, try to tell you what's going on. But yeah, so I worked on that movie. It was all veterans. I would say 99%. There was some that like snuck through the tracks, but it was like all veterans in that cast because they wanted people that knew how to like hold a gun. Surprisingly, they're like, "What do you mean a cook doesn't know how to shoot?" And I'm like, "Okay, okay." There's your cliche in Hollywood that just because you're a veteran, you know what you're doing. Anyways, rant over. So I networked and became part of this amazing organization called Veterans in Media and Entertainment, VME. It's a LA-based veteran organization that essentially, like, if you want a career or you want to get into like the movie making or the Hollywood space, you're a writer, producer, actor, you want to be a director, they like have a job board and they give you, they have like, they coordinate kind of like workshops to help you improve your skills. Great organization. I became part of them, created my profile, and a week or two later, I get an email with the subject line looking for door kicker types. And I'm like, huh. It's like,
That's
yeah, I
me.
guess I'll take that. You know, I've kicked a couple doors and applied for it, ended up getting it, and it was for Gameology. And it was just like they didn't really tell me what it was. They're just like, hey, yeah, you're gonna come to the studio, and there's gonna be another guy there, and you guys are just gonna watch some like footage and tell me what you think. So that's actually where I met Israel. We walked into the studio, met each other. He's like, I'm a Green Beret, and I'm like, fucking you're gay.
Yeah, weird thing to say.
Yeah, you're like, you think you're better than me? And I'm just like, nah. But yeah, we ended up sitting down and like we jived really well. We had really good banter, good communication, and it was just super fun to like, I grew up on Call of Duty. Like
Mhm.
I literally say, they're like,
The good
Cameron, why'd you
ones.
join the army? I'm like, Modern Warfare, you know?
Yep. The original.
Yeah.
The
And that
OG.
was yeah, OG. That's where I learned about Rangers, dude. I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he dies in that one, but hey.
Okay, yeah, I know. I'll say I was part of first bat and second bat. Yeah, Ramirez. But dude, so I really enjoyed my time with Gameology. We made it like a monthly thing, so we'd go in there in the studio and they'd show us a bunch of different footage, and they'd just make a bunch of video game, pretty much make a bunch of content of us reacting to it, and it kind of evolved to where like now we're actually playing the games, and Izzy and I were going through like playing the campaigns, and it was just not only super cool to like you know uh, be able to entertain people, and that was kind of like stroking my ego a little bit because people were like, these guys are so cool. Now you had the occasional guy that was just like, this guy's a fucking frag, nose piercing, whatever. And but that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Can't
But
please them all.
yeah, you can't please them all. But it was just a really good experience. And actually, Gameology led to Shift Fire, which was actually owned by the same company. So Gameology was like one channel that this greater entity owned. They had like a gaming channel and a car channel and a beauty and makeup channel. So essentially, one day they sent us an email and they're like, hey, we have this idea. We've never, we do a lot of work with existing channels that have big followings, but one thing we haven't done is start a channel from the ground up and grow it. And you guys are our most popular segment on Gameology. And we're like, yeah, that's sick. So they're like, we think you would make an excellent kind of experiment to build your guys' own channel. So you guys get full creative control. We'll own it, but we'll like, we had our own agreement and everything, and that turned into Shift Fire, which grew super quick, and it was all thanks to Gameology. So it's funny because I don't really play a lot of video games, but now I still have my Xbox, and like when Helldivers came out, I was I was fucking jumping in, of
Yeah.
course. But that brought back a good part of my like growing up, like coming down after school and just literally playing Modern Warfare until like I was purple in the face, and then doing that again. It was a good little nostalgic thing, and I really enjoyed my time on Gameology.
Yeah. Oh, like I said, man, I'm a fan. I'm a big nerd. So like, Eli, our
Thanks,
other
man.
our other VP was like, yeah, we got Cameron Fath in our email right now. The Ranger Doc hooked us up, and I was like, oh yeah, no, like
Dude, that's so
I
nice.
think that's a guy on YouTube, and he's like, yeah, check him out. You could do the interview with him. I was like, oh yeah. So I went and looked, and I was like, yeah, fuck, that's a dude from Gameology, man.
That's so cool, man. That's I am humbled to hear that. You want to know something really funny? Is I I've gotten to a point where I'll be recognized on the street. I'm not trying to sound like, oh, I get recognized, but it's still weird because like when it first used to happen, Ranger would kick in and be like, "Why are you fucking staring at me, dude? You
Yeah.
either want to fight me or fuck me and pick
Hey,
one."
what the fuck are you looking at?
Yeah, pretty much. And he'd be like, "You're the guy from the," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, for sure."
Yeah,
So
you're
like,
right. I wasn't about to assault you. You're correct.
yeah, for real. I'm like, it's on. But I only get recognized. I would say 99% of the people that'll come up to me and be like, "You're Cameron. I know you. You're from Gameology," and or they're like, "You're from YouTube." Nobody. I've had one guy. This has probably happened like a couple dozen of times, but nobody except for one dude, shout out you, my friend, has been like, you're from Netflix. You think something that would have, we had, I think, 13 million views on the Netflix show in the first week, is what they told me. And everybody was like, you're the guy from Snapchat for Shiftfire and Gameology, because they're on shit Snapchat too. And they're like, dude. So, I Gameology was such a big part of my life that I appreciate it so much because it is the reason I am here.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is kind of weird. But I was like thinking about the other day, like when I saw your Netflix show, and I was like, it's weird because it hasn't come across my Netflix like algorithm, which is
Yeah,
odd because almost everything in there is like war,
military.
training, combat,
Yeah,
like or anime because like I'm a nerd. But like,
sure. I got you, man. I'm a big Bleach fan.
yeah,
Hell
there
yeah.
you go. Yeah, but yeah, I was like that's odd, so I had to add it on there. But yeah, once I
No
searched it, it came
problem.
right up.
Yeah,
So last question, quick.
sure.
Ask this of everybody. So if you had one piece of advice to give to like young junior leader coming up in the military, or whatever factor of life, what would that one piece of advice be?
Okay. The piece of advice is be a professional. Be a professional. Literally, um, your job, especially in regards to the military, right? Your job is to be the best soldier possible. Your job is to win, right? Because the implications of losing is death, right? So know your job better than anyone. Be hungrier than hell to find the right answers, because being a subject matter expert is there is no secrets. There are no things that aren't actually readily available. There are TMs, there is doctrine, there is everything that is available to you. Go out of your way to learn it and to understand it and know how to apply it. I figured it out later in the game, that like, oh my god, if you know what you're talking about, it makes it a lot easier. The one person you don't want to be is when you're asked a question, you're like, I don't know. But if that is you, the answer is, I don't know, but I'll find out. Not just, I don't know, Sergeant. It's like, I don't know, Sergeant, but I'll find out. Give me a little bit. So just be hungry to learn. Be hungry to learn and just be a professional. Being a professional not only is a state of like how you present yourself, but it is a state of how you perform too. Because I don't know any professional athletes, any professional bowlers, any professional whatever have you. If you're a professional, you are good at the job, right? That's why you are a professional. So be a fucking professional.
Yeah, well, we want to thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long time since I did, a podcast, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I can nerd out. Yeah, so
Hell
really
yeah, dude.
excited, but it was great to meet you. We appreciate you. Shameless plug for us. Got our app coming out. So you can see you got our beta started. Come check us out on bunker-bros.com. Buy our stuff. Donate. You got rich friends that need a tax break. Donate to us. You get
Boom.
a receipt and everything. Check out Cameron's show on Netflix, Toughest Forces on the World. We talked about it for like an hour, so you guys should definitely know what it's about by now. And if it's not on your algorithm, go put it on there like I had to do. Thanks again, Cam.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was a good time.
Incoming, incoming, incoming.